Kia ora, everyone, and welcome back to Stripped and Unscripted. I'm Vixen Temple.
And I am Madeline Rose.
We're here today to talk about quite an intense topic. We're talking about the inherent pedophilia of patriarchy. So, huge content warning. This is going to be a very intense corridor. But the reason we've been prompted to talk about this, I'm sure many of you have been aware of the release of the Epstein files and just the abominational horrors that has revealed about the people that are in power in this world. Honestly, I don't know about the rest of you, but for me, it wasn't that shocking. I feel for many of us, especially us women, especially us S workers, we know that most men are very pedophilic. I saw a really good meme. Oh, sorry, not a meme. A post from Tales from the Stripped posted, like, I'm not shocked by the Epstein files because I've seen what the average man will do in a booking. Like, most men, if they came into that power, would be doing the same thing. So we feel prompted to talk about this discourse that I've been seeing all over the internet of women coming to the realization that we have been raised under a very pedophilic hierarchy. We've all been raised as women to value our youth, our thinness, to be as small as possible. And before we get into the corridor, I want to talk briefly about why patriarchy is so inherently pedophilic. So men are very insecure and jealous of the fact that the survival of our species is dependent on people with wombs, in their eyes, women. And so they have had to oppress women in order to essentially turn us into like chattel. We are merely products of reproduction in their eyes. The ideal woman is young, youthful, fertile, and that's why patriarchy really favors youth, especially in women. They are terrified of elder women because older women know their worth. They are wise. They aren't easy to manipulate. They're not naive. Younger women, especially in this patriarchal world that have been groomed to idealize men and male approval, I can speak from my own experience, are so easy to manipulate, so easy to mold into this perfect submissive girlfriend that they're looking for. It's very Madonna whore complex, which I'm sure we'll discuss more in future episodes. But Madeline and I both have experiences with men being very pedophilic towards us, idealizing us for being young and small and youthful. I will touch on this as we go on. I'm going to pass to Madeline to share her story, but I am approaching my 30s and I have been quite confronted with my own internalized, like, patriarchal grooming of, like, I need to be young and thin and small. So I'm going to pass to Madeline to share her experiences through how S work really opened our eyes to the pedophilic nature of men. Madeline, would you like to share your story?
My first experiences with sex work, I think I was 20 or maybe I was 21 at the time. I went into sugar babying completely on a whim, very impulsive decision one day, just thought like, fuck it, let's go. Made a seeking arrangements account with a friend. And then like within the first day, like immediately um, started speaking to someone online who I can only really describe as giving like a bit of 50 Shades of Grey, like what's his name? Christian Grey, I think, like giving that energy. Um, and obviously, like to 21-year-old me, I was like, oh my God, perfect sugar daddy. He was, I believe, in his late 30s, and I was, yeah, like 2021. And I had no fucking clue what I was going into. I didn't even realize it was sex work. I was at the time probably like still pretty under the thumb of the patriarchy and like happily so, if that makes sense. I wouldn't say necessarily that I had a lot of pick-me energy, but I was not informed whatsoever. And I remember this moment very specifically because even then, not being super informed, my brain was like, that's fucking weird. But it was probably like the third or fourth time I met this man. Um, we didn't really have like a traditional sugar daddy, sugar baby relationship. It was very complicated. I had no boundaries. It was that. It was not a dating or a boyfriend, girlfriend type of vibe, but there definitely was a lot of like muddying of the waters. But I remember trotting around his like apartment, just like fully naked, just doing bits and like grabbing things and just whatever. And I was in the bathroom and I was looking at myself in the mirror and he was also looking at me in the mirror and he like kind of chuckled to himself and he would literally said to me, full confidence, like not a moment of hesitation or like any acknowledgement of like how fucking weird it was after he said it. But he literally said to me, he was like, you are like a child but with tits. And at the time, I remember being like, part of me at the time I was very like in a bit of disordered like food relationship stuff. So at the time my brain was like, that's fucking weird, but like I assume that means he thinks I'm skinny. And so that's kind of how I pathologized that at the time. And then over the last like probably 3, 4 years, because that is like such a like I've really remembered that like that he there was a lot of very weird pedophilic behavior from him and like vibes from him, but that specific comment like stuck out to me so much and still does. That is just so incredibly fucking weird to say that to a woman that you're sleeping with when she's naked in your house, that she looks like a child with tits and that you're down with that. Like what an fucking horrible weird fucking thing to say. Um, yeah, that's my story.
It's honestly crazy how loud men are about their pedophilia. And that's why, like I was saying at the start of this episode, I don't think most of us are shocked by the revelations in the Epstein files. Men are not quiet about how much they are attracted to younger women. Like, men are so loud about, when you ask most men what their ideal woman is, they will describe a child, essentially. I want her to be thin and petite and hairless, and I want her to, worship me and idealize me. I want her to be naive. Like, they are so loud about it. I want to share the time I dated a man 20 years my senior. So I was 22, 23-ish. It was when I was stripping in Ōtepoti, Dunedin. I met him through the club. Listen, I'm not going to endorse dating a customer, but I have done it. So yeah, I met him through the club. He was like a stunt performer and he was filming a horror movie in Dunedin, and him and the crew would come into the club each night. And I thought, like, I think most of us women, we are so conditioned into thinking this, like, men my age, especially when we're like in our early 20s, men my age are not mature enough for me. I like older men because they're so mature and so wise and so established. Like, this man had a mortgage. He owned his own home. That was so attractive to 22-year-old me. And I feel like a lot of that speaks to how women are conditioned to mature a lot faster than men, where men are allowed to mature later because of weaponized incompetence and because they usually have a mature woman in their lives taking care of them. But I start dating this guy. I'm like 22 and he is 41. So he is like, 20 years my senior. At the time, I didn't really think much of it. Looking back on it now, as someone approaching my 30s, I do not see people beneath the age of like 25 as like sexual, they're children to me. Like, respectfully, if you're beneath the age of 25 and your frontal lobe has not developed, I cannot see you as a romantic or sexual option. You're a child to me. You still have so much to learn. So So looking back on it now, as I get older, I'm starting to see it through different eyes. But at the time, I thought nothing of it. I thought, men my own age are so immature. I need to date a man who's 40 years old and has all this life experience. And granted, even to this day, I will say, looking back on it, even though this man was 20 years my senior, I had more emotional maturity than he did. But I remember one night, I can't remember how the topic came up, but we were just, talking about the age gap. And I just remember him saying, oh yeah, like women in my age are so damaged from their experiences of dating men. It's just sort of easier to date younger women that are still wide-eyed and optimistic. And the way that I cannot believe I didn't hear that and go, what the fuck? But what he was essentially saying, it's like, oh, so you agree? So men fucking traumatize women. But he was pretty much saying women his age have better discernment. They know their worth. They don't tolerate bullshit. Whereas women my age at the time are so naive. We're willing to tolerate more because we don't have that experience. And I think back on him saying that so much. And again, like, I shouldn't blame myself. I was 22 years old, but I cannot believe 22-year-olds did not hear that and go, what the fuck, I need to run. But I think that experience and looking back on it now, and I think about how when I was in high school, so many of my like 15, 16-year-old friends would be dating like 19-year-old guys and just how normal that was. And it was the same thing. We would all say the same thing. Guys our own age are immature. We need to date an older man. And just how inherently creepy that is. But men are just so loud about their attraction to youth, naivety, and that it's something we need to address as a society. And the wake of the Epstein files, I think, has really stirred that realization. I've seen a lot of discourse on the internet of people talking about growing up with like Victoria's Secret campaign shoved in their face of the ideal woman being like thin and hairless.
I have stories of being like so disgustingly confident about asserting the preference that you present as a way younger woman. Another story, and like, I'm sure if we have listeners that have worked at this club like I did in the last like 4 or 5 years will know exactly who I'm talking about. But basically we had a customer, we used to call him Creepy Chris, like he was known to all the girls as Creepy Chris, and it was because he would always select, and when I say select, like he would be selective, not in a way of like whoever sat next to him and was nice to him would get a booking. It was like, no, he would ask for girls and he would then ask girls that he selected to sort of present in a specific way, but this customer never really came anywhere near me. But there was one shift where I think it was a day shift and there was only like 3 of us on, and I at the time was the most innocent looking girl there. He would usually go for like the blonde kind of like untattooed type of stripper, but because I was the only like even remotely innocent looking one there, which honestly, like, I don't think I necessarily look that innocent, but he basically was like, oh, like, you've got a lot of tattoos. At the time I had 3 tattoos. He was like, do you have anything like pink that you could wear? Like, do you have like a little skirt, like a schoolgirl skirt? I've heard stories of him asking other girls that I worked with if they could put like pigtails in their hair. Like, he would confidently ask for these things. And then after like he was satisfied that you were going to do like those things, wear what he wanted or look a certain way, he would book you, and then he would, just do a booking with you. And I remember him like asking all of these questions for me and me just being like, fuck that. I think this would have been like 2020. Oh, what is it? 2026. It would have been 2024, I would say. So it wasn't like super long ago. But he was asking me all these questions, and I just think at the time I was like, fuck no. am I going to go put on a fucking skirt for you, you weird little man? And I just was like, I'm not sure. And I left and I walked back into the changing room and I just like didn't go anywhere near him again. And without asking me, he booked me at the like little booking counter that we have at the club there. And the phone rang and the manager was like, this guy has booked you. And I was like, is it Creepy Chris? And she was like, yes, it is. And I said, there's no way in fucking hell I'm doing a booking with that pedophile. Like, cancel that right now. I did not consent to that. I'm not doing that. And thankfully she did cancel it. But this guy was like so much of a pedo and so confident about it that we all knew about it and had a name for him. And he wasn't necessarily super unique. We had a lot of men that would ask for things like that and do that. The reason he was such a standout is just that he was such a regular. He was there like several times a week. And it's just like, it's just disgusting. And it actually like, you know, when you work in a strip club, obviously like there's a huge variety of women that look a lot of different ways. And it does really make me feel like, not like, it's not that I feel sorry for the girls that get chosen for that, but it just makes me feel like, just in general, like worried, because these men are like straight up fucking predators and they're selecting someone that they view to be like the most vulnerable. And that is so insidious to me and disgusting, and it's truly disgusting. And I mean, you were talking about Vixen as well, like to go on a tangent, like you dated a man that was 20 years your senior. After the sugar daddy relationship I had with the guy who was like 15 years older than me, I got a long-term boyfriend maybe like a few months after that ended, and I think he was 9 years older than me, and we were together for a year, and he didn't do anything like outright, I don't know even what would be the word, I guess pedophilic toward me. He didn't like showcase to me that like he was interested in me because of my looks of being a lot younger than him, and because I was of the same idea at the time as like, I'm very mature, I'm very emotionally intelligent, I need a man who's a little bit older because all of the men in my age bracket in my friends group are children and they are like just running amok, and I don't want to date a man like that. And so at the time it did seem really appealing to go for an older man. And obviously at that point in my life, I had only really ever been dating men that were like 8 to 15 years older than me. But something that like that relationship stole from me was a year of just like being young, like a year of being able to just experience life like all my friends when I was 21 and 22. Like this man was very very mature in like a business sense, and so he was really always pushing me to be like a business owner and like very entrepreneurial and XYZ. And you know, I really wanted to please him because I was really young and like wanting him to think I was really mature, and so I really pushed myself to do things like that. And now looking back at that as a 27-year-old, I'm like, he was so emotionally immature and emotionally stunted and unable to show me any of the like emotional depth that I really needed. And I genuinely think that's a big part of why he wanted to date someone a lot younger than him, was because I know for damn sure if I was dating a man that age right now, at my age, 27, and he was that emotionally stunted, I would not fucking stand for it. I would be like, what the fuck are you doing at age fucking 29 or 30, not being able to talk about your feelings at all? But because I was 21, I was, I guess, like, yeah, in a sense, much more vulnerable and much more accepting of like shitty treatment and just much less experienced in general with relationships. And I think it is a really fucking awesome question to ask ourselves when we are thinking about like dating men that are a lot older, is like, why aren't these men dating women in their age bracket? What is it? Is it that women in their age bracket want nothing to do with them because they've got some sort of like weird baggage shit, no emotional intelligence going on? Or are they a straight up pedophile? And like, yeah, just like a couple of thoughts off the back of what you said, Vixen, but It's fucking weird. It's super strange. And I don't think that every age gap relationship is problematic or dangerous, but I do think that we kind of glamorize it in a sense. And I think that we should actually just be like critically thinking a little more about some of these situations. Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
No, I absolutely agree. And like you said, like my ex was the same. I remember thinking, oh, I want to date an older man because he'll be so mature. This man had to be drunk the first time he said, I love you to me, because he's so emotionally blocked.
I have to add that you just said that. The first time this man said I love you to me was right after I broke up with him. How fucking tragic is that? We dated for a year.
Oh my God, that is so immature. Like, what the hell? And that's another thing about like the inherent pedophilia of patriarchy is like, and I touched on this with like, men are allowed to be stupid because of weaponized incompetence. Like, positioning men as these like, you know, like, oh, they're so strong and they're providers and blah, blah, blah. And like, they're so dominant. But let's be so real. Like, we all know that majority of men are so emotionally blocked. They're stupid. They don't know how to regulate their emotions, and not stupid in like a weaponized incompetence. They don't know what they're doing. Stupid in the sense that they know what they're doing. It is a choice to do what they do. And that is a stupid choice. But it just frustrates me how patriarchy positions men as these logical, well-rounded, people that are fit to be leaders. I think so much of men and how they treat women is a projection, like men projecting this idea onto women that we are inherently submissive and subordinate. I'm going to be very careful with how I word this because I don't want to lean into bioessentialism and talking about how it's like men's inherent nature. But one thing I've noticed throughout my life is that a lot of men are very submissive, but they want the illusion of power. Like, I think about what patriarchy does to men, and how at the end of the day, patriarchy and capitalism and white supremacy really only serves like the 1%, like a very select few who are at the very, very top with the power. The rest of us, like men, for example, patriarchy breeds men to be very, what's the word I'm looking for? Compliant. I think a lot about how men are often attracted to the army. I think about fraternity culture in colleges, how it really just breeds compliancy. But because men have somewhat of more inherent power over women under a patriarchy, it gives them the illusion that they have control over their lives because they have control over the woman in their lives. And I think that's why so many men project that you're submissive over to women because they want to feel they have some sort of control over their lives because they really have none. And so they want to have a submissive, subordinate woman that they can feel authoritative over because they really have no authority over their own lives. Like, I hate to say, oh, patriarchy oppresses men too, because like it rewards them in many ways, but patriarchy it oppresses all of us. Like we're all oppressed under a patriarchy. It's the 1% that really gets to gain from it. And these men are seeking a subordinate, submissive, small woman to make them feel big. When we look at matriarchal societies and how they worked, it wasn't a reverse patriarchy where women had the control. Matriarchal societies value nurture, community, and motherhood. It's children that are upheld in matriarchal societies. And so taking us into a patriarchal society, the most oppressed people in patriarchy are children. Patriarchy doesn't care about children. It's why like pro-life is such bullshit rhetoric, because it's like, you don't care about children. You want factory workers. You want worker bees. You want people to, you want innocent babies for your Epstein fucking shit. Like, it just is so insidious and disgusting how much patriarchy has warped our brains, fucked us as a society. Men think that they are inherently powerful. They oppress us in the process, and they are so terrified of older women who take up space, who are loud, who know their worth, who can see through men's bullshit. The older I get, the more experience I have with men, I see what they're doing. I can see it. They're actually so simple. They're so easy to read. Sex work gave me that insight. Dating men for the years I have dated men has given me that insight. Men are simple in their operation of how they oppress us. And once you start to see it and call it out, they see you as like, oh, no, she's run by her used by date. And so like touching on that with like my own being hit with like, okay, so I turned 30 this year. I've been hit with this realization. I remember about a year when I turned 29 last year, I started thinking about like my career as a performance artist and thinking, okay, I'm turning 30 soon. Like, does that mean I need to stop, being a performance artist? Like, am I getting too old to be dressing up in costumes and like parading about as like a drag queen and a stripper and all these things? And I'm like, wait a minute, what am I talking about? Like, I'm only 30. It's really not that old in the grand scheme of things. But I've been conditioned by this patriarchal world. We think that women hit 30 or even 25 and that's their like expiry date. And it was really confronting for me to realize that I had internalized that, where I was starting to doubt, like, okay, do I need to start acting my age and like not being a performance artist? Like, what? Or even the ageism in sex work. I do full service and I'm like, am I now getting too old for these clients who are like 50? Like, what the hell is that about? What the fuck do you mean? I was thinking, oh no, I'm too old to be a sex worker because I'm turning 30 with my clients who are predominantly in their 40s. It is ridiculous. And another thing I was really confronted by, that I am fucking to admit, but it's just the programming of patriarchy. I've realized in the past year that my body is changing. So this is one thing. If you are a woman in her under 25, I want you to know this. When you get to your like 27, 28, 29 age, you go through another puberty. Your body starts to change into more womanly. You put on weight. Your boobs get bigger, your hips get wider. My thighs touch. I've always had a thigh gap in my life, and now my thighs touch. I've put on weight. I noticed that when I started going back to pole and realized that I'm heavier than I was all those years ago in my early 20s when I did pole. We don't talk about that enough as a society. Women go through a second puberty in your late 20s as you approach being a woman. I have the body I have a womanly body now, and I feel so sexy and so attractive and so powerful. But it's been really confronting in S work, having to advertise myself. Like, I'm not like toned petite anymore. Like, I'm like, how do I advertise this body that's not like, I'm still very small, don't get me wrong. I'm still quite thin. But shit, I saw a picture of myself when I was 23 the other day, and I was like, oh my God, like I was thin. Like, okay, I was small. And now that my body is changing and I'm taking up more space, it's been really confronting to sit with that internalized ageism in my head of like, this is a good thing. My body is a woman. I have a womanly body, but realizing in my head, is that going to be unattractive to the majority of my clients who booked me because I was so thin and small and petite, and I've always had small perky boobs, and like now my boobs are getting bigger and plumpier, and like I look like a woman. Anyways, that's just a tangent I've had. I just want to make it so clear to women out there that your body will go through so many changes in your life. It freaked me out at first. It really confronted me, but it's a beautiful fucking thing. It is a beautiful fucking thing.
I'm not sure. Maybe I'm like in the period. Sorry, in the period. What am I saying? In the puberty, or maybe I'm about to hit the puberty. I don't know. I feel like my ADHD has been so rampant that like I've only really just started to like figure out my menstrual cycle, if I'm honest. Like, I feel like I've had so much going on that only now that I'm medicated am I actually starting to become a bit more in tune with the parts of my body that are like very, I don't know, feminine, I guess, and like my hormones and such. But um, something that I have done recently, which I want everyone to, while you listen to this, do a silent prayer, and I want you to make sure that you wish for this for me, is I have been, because when I, yeah, for background context on this, when I was Oh, when was it? When I was 19 to 21, I worked in a beauty salon and we did all kinds of treatments. I was more like face type of stuff, but in the same place we had laser, like hair removal laser. And as a 19-year-old, I was like, fucking A, zap all of that off me because it was like, I think it was like a quarter of the price or something like that for me. So it was like ridiculously cheap. And so I had essentially like my entire body lasered. And I mean, like, a lot of people will listen to this and be like, steak too juicy, lobster too buttery, or whatever. But the laser worked so well on me that I am still quite like hairless. And I have been like battling and working and doing whatever the fuck I can to grow my pubes back. Again, it's like this whole thing of I spent how many years in full-time sex work having to shave everything every single shift. When I say I had laser and like worked, I had laser and it worked really well, but you still get hair, like you still get some fuzz, just not like the same that you would get if you hadn't had any laser. But I'm having to think constantly about like shaving everything, and like I remember like we would always, when the topic came up, like we would quite often talk about it as like it was our preference. And then if you actually really think about it, yes, it is a preference, but it's a preference because we've had to like, especially as sex workers, but as women as a whole, we've always had to cater to the male gaze. Those of us who are like heterosexual, like straight, we are really having to like literally alter ourselves, control our bodies, into what Vixen said about having to be like this specific body type to please men and clients and stuff, to like fit it. And then when you later in life realize that the preference of hairless and slim and all of these different things is rooted in pedophilia, that is just like, how fucking angering is that? For any of the divas who are into reality TV, I want to preface this by saying I'm not watching this show, and I feel like it's important that I say that. I'm not sure why, but I'm not watching the show. But what I am is watching the TikToks. And I'm also listening to a very like, what would be the word? Like vocal, loud feminist from Australia who does like like not a review of this reality show, but like she does like little episodes sort of breaking down and talking about her feelings about the show, because the show is every single season so incredibly problematic. It's MAFS, it's Married at First Sight in Australia. And the reason I'm thinking about it is because there's a character, he's a real life person, one of the grooms who's been brought in to marry this other woman. His name is Tyson and he's on the show, and he is exactly the kind of man who is the man that me and Vixen are talking about. There's this specific interaction that he's had with his new wife. They've been married for a day. Obviously, Married at First Sight is pretty self-explanatory. They get married after, like, they've just met each other. So they've been married for a day. They've known each other for a day. They're having these conversations. They're being prompted to ask each other, like, hard questions, deep questions, X, Y, Z. And she gets the question to ask him that is, what is your body count? And she asks him what his body count is. And this man immediately goes, oh, it's probably like upwards 20, 30, not that many, but like definitely like could have been more. And then she's in her head kind of like, okay, cool, whatever. And then, of course, he gets the question and asks it back to her. And she answers very similar. She says about 20. And he kind of says to her, oh, like that's a really big problem for me. And she's like, why is that a problem for you? Like, we've basically slept with the same amount of people. And he goes on to sort of be like, make all these dumb excuses like, well, I can just see that you prefer lust over love and XYZ. But if we like think about this a little more, what this man is essentially saying is like, you've slept with too many women for me to be attracted to you. Sorry, you've slept with too many men for me to be attracted for you. And then he goes into like what is called a voxy. So it's like this, you know, in reality TV, they do those little like interviews that aren't in front of the other person. It's just like him having a little private interview. And he talks about like what is an appropriate body count for him. And it is, I can't remember, but it is insanely low. He also goes on to insinuate that he would actually just ideally prefer a virgin. And that is so fucking disgusting. This is like reality TV in Australia. You can like search this TikTok and watch this evil creature do this. One of his like first like when they're like introducing him on the show is a photo of, he's also is really funny. He's in the army. He's doing push-ups and there's an American flag behind him and he's talking about how much he loves Trump. Anyway, if that gives you sort of a screenshot into what that is all about. But he just rips her out confidently on reality TV for sleeping with the same amount of people that he has. And she is gobsmacked by this. She is like, what the actual fuck? And it is just so indicative of this whole thing. He's like exactly the character that we're kind of talking about. These men that are like so fucking disgusting toward women who I reckon like so many of these guys, I'm not sure if they've really confronted themselves with the fact that they're like being pedophilic. Do you think that they have any clue? Like not a lot of, obviously these men are like very, very dangerous actual pedophiles, but do you think, Vixen, that a lot of men who perpetuate these like very disgusting, like weird ideologies have actually thought a little in depth about what they're actually insinuating about themselves?
Not at all. And the reason being is that every man thinks that he is the exception. No man will look at himself and think, I am the problem. They have been raised to think that this is just normal. The worst, like, you know, you call a man a pedophile, he's going to, oh my God, like, what the hell? What are you talking about? You say to a man that, you know, his preference is hairless, virgin, and you say, oh, so you like little girls. I actually said that once. I was at a out call for a bachelor party, and the guy that booked me, the bachelor, was like, you're really gorgeous and all that, but like I prefer shaved pussies. And I was like, oh, so you prefer little girls? And he got really defensive about it. They haven't unpacked it within themselves because they think they're just an ordinary man who has ordinary preferences and that it's so normal. And the whole like men wanting a virgin is they're intimidated by a woman with experience because she's going to have high expectations of what she wants in bed, whereas a virgin is fit for priming. It's just his perfect little doll that he can like mold into his perfect thing. So no, I don't think so at all. Do you think that they, and in the sense that I'm not saying that to excuse them, I'm saying that these men they do not have the depth to reflect. They of course are going to think, I'm just an ordinary man. This is a normal thing because pedophilia is so normalized. No man's going to look at himself unless he is actively raping a child. He is not going to look at himself and think, I have inherently pedophilic ideologies towards women. It's not defending them. It's not excusing them. It's speaking to just how normalized it is. What do you say to that, Madeline?
I reckon there's actually something about this that like feeds into the whole like submissive thing that you're talking about, because so many of the men in power that are convicted pedophiles or rapists or whatever fucked up thing that they are well known to the world for being convicted as those things, but also like, I mean, let's think about like the Andrew Tates of the world, right? Who like preach this like really, really fucking disgusting bullshit about like women and body counts and like wanting a submissive woman and all this shit. But then they also know that these men are just fucking sexual predators themselves, because a lot of these men are so submissive and indoctrinated into this whole like manosphere of it that they actually like don't really think it's a problem, because the people that they're looking up to are like very clearly like perpetrators. Does that make sense?
Oh, that makes perfect sense. It's just normalized to them. They're like, well, and you're so right. You really summarized the submissiveness of patriarchy so well, how easy men are indoctrinated into this like cult-like manosphere because they're looking for a leader. They're looking for someone to guide them and tell them what to do. It's why, I mean, you look at the whole concept of like male religion and how just like inherently submissive and subordinate it makes people. Like men are so easily swept into the red pill manosphere world because they are desperately looking for guidance, because they position men as authoritative leaders, like men that love Trump, men that love Tate, men that love these people that are known predators, and they're just like, oh, I want to be just like him. So it's just so normalized that they're not even sitting and thinking and unpacking it within themselves how fucked up it is, because they feel it is their inherent worth to have a young, youthful, virginal woman.
I was having a thought just then, is like, I'm relatively well experienced with dating men, so I have, in the last 2 and a bit years that I have been with my partner Corey, have been experiencing like something that I have never experienced before in a relationship, and that is a man that encourages me to put on weight, which like was very important to me for the little while, because I've always dated men who their preference was like the ultra skinny, ultra tiny. Like, okay, here's another fucking weird, disgusting thing a man has said to me in the past. A man told me one time that I was probably one of the thickest women that he ever dated, and that his usual preference is women with no bums and no boobs. And I remember going, oh, okay, that's fucking weird. Yeah, that's really weird. So when I started dating Corey, and, you know, he was always like, really, not like pushing me to put weight on, but he is always more than keen for me to eat a ridiculous amount of food. Like, and he's always essentially like telling me how much he doesn't give a single shit if anything on my body jiggles, and I remember like sort of asking him a lot, getting into the relationship, being like, are you serious? Like, are you just trying to be supportive? Or like, do you generally like not think that like the ideal sexy is like Victoria's Secret model, like super lean? And he was like, no, like I'm very attracted to like women. And I was like, what? Like thick women? And he was like, well, yeah, just like think women are attractive. And I was like, so you don't think that super skinny is the ideal? And he was like, no. And in my head, maybe like a year and a half ago, a year ago, I went, oh, you're not a pedophile. Like, oh, you're not a fucking pedophile. Like, he's not looking at me and thinking like, oh, I need to keep her like lean so that she continues to look like a child. Like, and that to me was mind blowing. And then, so this feeds in again to this normalization thing where, like, even to me as a woman who has like had to navigate like all of the men that I've ever dated being like very clearly like having a preference toward like leanness and no pubic hair, and now being confronted with like an adult man who's like pro my pubic hair. He's like pro me putting on weight and like looking however I want to look, and he's always encouraging me to like physically take up more space, and like he's a PT, so he's encouraging me to always put muscle on. It's kind of just become so acutely aware to me like how much this pedophilia is just so deeply woven into just our society as a whole. And holy fuck, like it is, and I don't love this word because it's kind of one of those like buzzwords, but it is so incredibly liberating to be in a relationship with someone who literally couldn't give a less of a fuck if I lost a whole lot of weight or if I gained a whole lot of weight, and if I had pubes or if I didn't have pubes. He is into it regardless. And he has never ever like pushed any sort of like weird patriarchal beauty standard on me, and it's fucking awesome. And again, like what's shocking to me about this is the first time I've experienced this in my life, and I'm 27 and I've dated. Like I have really, I'm not someone who's had like one boyfriend and then has dated a couple of times. Like I've actively dated a lot in my life. And yeah, how fucking mind blowing is that? Awesome that I'm experiencing it now, like great. But how the fuck is that only happening to me at age 27?
And earlier when you were talking about like growing your pubes out, and like I'm so proud of you for that. That's so fucking exciting. I feel so sexy with like I started growing my armpit hair out in 2020, I think during the lockdown especially. And like, God, it just feels so sexy. I'm so attracted to women with body hair. I just think it looks womanly. But I was thinking about, I remember what exactly it was in the strip club that happened that made me start to grow out my pubes. What happened, and this is a really fucking disgusting story. When I was working in a club in Ōtepoti, I had a booking with this man. He was like in his 60s. Oh my God, this is really gross, guys. We were in the booking, in the lap dance. It was a full nude. I was lying on my floor on my back. I took my underwear off. You know how fellow strippers, like, you lift your legs up and you like pull your underwear off and then you put them back down and like spread eagle. I did that. I'm fully shaved. Oh my God. Oh my God. This 60-year-old man. Oh, he looks at my vulva and he goes, oh my God, I hate this. He goes, oh my gosh, it looks just like my granddaughter's.
Holy fucking shit.
It sent shivers all through my body. It, like, oh my God, like the way he just said that. And he like moaned as oh my God, sorry guys to put that in your ears. But yeah, like that experience, I remember leaving that booking after. I went to the changing rooms. I like just sat there like, I was shaking. I felt so disgusted. I wanted to go home, but I obviously fucking wasn't able to because fucking management sucks. But like, I had to like take a 10-minute like breather to like ground myself. And after that, I stopped shaving. That was the thing that made me go, I cannot do this. I cannot do this. I can't have a hairless vulva anymore. This is disgusting. So that experience, oh my God, I'm like shaking now remembering it. I can see him in my head. It was so, oh my God, like it's burned into my memory. It's so fucking disgusting. But need I remind people, like, these men that come to us, like, this man's a granddad. These are normal men. I saw this thing once. I agreed with it. It was like this S worker on Instagram being like, all my experiences in the S-work industry has told me that, like, if you are a mother, you're not being paranoid by not sending your daughters to sleepovers where there are men in the house. Like, just keep that boundary. I would definitely reinforce that, because I remember another incident where a man booked me and he told me the reason he booked me for a dance was because I looked like his teenage daughter's friend. Just, this is a dad. This is a man with it. This is a father. That was a granddad. Like, these are just average everyday men. So the Epstein file does not shock me.
It's that whole trope of like when, I mean, this relates like specifically to sex work, but you know, when people always make comments about like, oh, you must like meet the worst people, like you must have the worst customers, like, you know, always kind of like going in on like how disgusting the customers are. And it's like, well, yeah, there are a fair few of them who are fucking disgusting, but our customers are the everyday man. They are your dad, they are your brother, they are your grandfather, they are your uncle, they are your boss, they are your fucking, like, they are literally just the everyday guy. And that's why we become jaded, because you're all saying how fucking horrible they are, and yet we know that they are just people that are existing in your life. And because they come into the strip club, they think they can get away with shit because they dehumanize us and don't think that, like, we are people.
Yeah, like, women say that all the time. Oh, yeah, the disgusting clients. These are the men you date. These are your husbands. These are the men that you are dating. These are men. These are ordinary men. And like I've said before, the way that men treat S workers is how they feel about all women. The reason that swerves piss me off so much is because men love swerves, because the more alienated and ostracized S workers are, we have the secrets of men. We know things. And the more other women look at us as dirty and disgusting and ostracize and distance themselves from us, the more men have to gain from that. So I beg women out there that look down on S workers and are disgusted by us to reconsider, who does that serve? Who does that benefit at the end of the day? It's the men. It's the same. I feel the same way about like divorced women of men, especially like elder divorced women who married a man, know the truth about men. And that's why again, we as a society have villainized older women. We dismiss them, we expire them, we push them aside, we don't have any time for them, because these are the women that know what men are like. They have experience with it. And in matriarchal societies, like, the older women were the midwives and the healers, and like, they were so sacred and celebrated. And the whole witch trials were to attack and literally like a genocide against older wise women, so that men could be replaced as the healers and the medicine keepers and all of that. Like, that's a whole other tangent I could get into, but like, the history of the witch trials and the witch hunts and that genocide of women was to eradicate older women, demonize them. You think about what a witch, the trope of a witch, right? She's old, she's haggard, she's got warts, she's like wrinkly, she's gray hair, she's like this, like, it's to make us scared of older women. And that has been internalized in younger women, how we are fearing aging, we fear being in relationship with older women. And unfortunately, the reverse has happened too, where older women don't like younger women because they're envious that younger women are propped up as like being celebrated. And it's such a shame that there's this division between older women and younger women, where I feel very fortunate that I'm friends with a lot of women in their late 30s and 40s. They've given me so much wisdom and insight, and I've also taught them things too. And intergenerational friendships and relationships like that, I think, is so important for women. We in matriarchal societies used to live very intergenerationally, like older women and younger women were mixed and living together and learning off each other. Patriarchy has made older women and younger women hate each other. Older women are resentful towards younger women, and younger women are terrified of older women. Instead, we need to be sitting with that, unpacking that, and realizing that older women have so much wisdom to bestow on us because they've been there. They've been living through it. We need to be talking about it with each other. We need to be keeping each other safe. And I feel very fortunate to be friends with older women. And when I'm friends with younger women, I view myself as like a big sister or like an auntie to them. Like, I need to protect you. I need to tell you what I have learned and keep you safe. And it's just disgusting.
Even if you think about it, like when I was saying my last little point about how people ask if we're jaded, even the concept of us as sex workers being jaded toward men is fucking patriarchal. Because if you think about, really, like, if you dig into what that means, like, oh, are you jaded toward men? Are we jaded, or are we actually just seeing the true way that men behave? Or are we just seeing like the mask come off because they don't think we're human? Like, do you get what I mean by that, Vixen? Like, it's not, is it that we're jaded, or is it just that we actually have seen the truth?
Absolutely. We are definitely put into the same box of the bitter older woman. You know how men talk a lot about how, like, when they see, like, I'll see reels on Instagram of like an older woman, she's single, she lives with cats, like, she's living her best life, and men are in the comments like, oh my God, like, you must be so fucking lonely. Oh my God, like, that's so sad. That's another projection again. Women are statistically more likely to live longer lives if they are surrounded by other women. Men are statistically likely to live longer lives if they are married to a woman. And so men saying you're going to die alone, that's their fear that they're projecting onto us. Most women, I mean, I've just recently broken up with my partner of 2 years. Still have love for them, still honor them. But I have come to realize in my life that my priority is community and friendship. Romantic love is not something I feel the need to pursue. I'm quite content growing old with a community of women and queers, and that's how I feel I am meant to live and age and live my life. And I'm prepared as I enter my 30s for people, like men especially, to start saying to me, oh my God, you must be so lonely and sad. Like, no, I've just like actually technically increased my life expectancy by not being in a relationship with a man. And I'm very proud of that. And I'm actually quite looking forward to regaining that sense of just agency over my life that I now live in. I want to live a matriarchal life. I want to live in relation with my friends in my community. And it's men that are actually terrified of growing old alone. I'm terrified of growing old alone in the sense that I don't have friends in community, but I could quite happily spend the rest of my life and never date again and actually be quite content with that as long as I have friends in community. And so, yeah, men are absolutely, they position the jaded, like that's how I'm going to be viewed. People are going to, oh my, like, I get that. I've had that throughout all my activism. Men saying to me, you're just a jaded, bitter, misandrous. And I'm like, yeah. And like, who does that hurt at the end of the day? It doesn't impact me. It impacts you more than anything because you're not going to have access for me. And that sucks for you because you need access to a woman, you fucking vampire, to live longer. I just want to make that so clear. Like when men ask, what do you bring to the table to a woman? I will extend your life. I will literally grant you longer life. What the fuck do you bring to me? You're going to bring death and trauma and bullshit. Like you're going to lower my life expectancy. The jaded S worker trope, I agree with you, Madeline. It's very patriarchal. It's putting us in the same box as like, oh, those bitter old hags that are bitter because they have shriveled up vaginas and they never landed a husband. Like, no, like the spinster, for example. Bitch, in a past life, I was a spinster and I was living my best life with my female flatmate, my roommate, like it's the older woman trope, the spinster trope, the jaded S worker, they are all the same category. It's men being intimidated by a woman that knows and sees right through men's bullshit, and they need to demonize us, they need to pathologize us so that younger women don't listen to us. But I think what we're seeing happen in the world with the wake of the Epstein files, we are seeing a shift. I'm radically optimistic that I might see the fall of the patriarchy within my lifetime. I think we as a society, I'm seeing so much discourse on the internet about returning to a matriarchy and how patriarchy has failed us. This is not how we're meant to be. No other animal species or mammals live as a patriarchy. It's an unnatural concept, and I genuinely hope that we see the burning of the patriarchy within my lifetime. We're having this corridor, we're having this feminine awakening of like, this is not how we're meant to be. We're going to destroy ourselves as a species because men have womb envy. Like, it's ridiculous.
Again, this all feeds back to this whole idea that there's only one way to be a woman and have happiness, and that is marriage and a family and being a mother. And like, you know, in regards to this decision that you've made, Vixen, to prioritize community and friendships and things like that over romantic love, and people kind of like doing this whole like, you know, old hag, spinster, you know, whatever, jaded kind of situation, is because like so many people, and especially men in that like sect of community, that like sect of society that is, I don't know, manosphere sort of energy, they genuinely think that like, and they can't comprehend that for you, marriage and kids isn't actually the ideal outcome, because they like prescribe that as the perfect life. Some people actually would be so much happier just with their cats at their house reading books and not having to deal with everything that comes with the nuclear family or whatever that is. And other people fucking love that idea and it works for them, and that's incredible, and they should be empowered to follow that pathway as long as it doesn't harm others. And yeah, it is so mind-blowing to me that people push these ideologies on women and totally just disregard their right to autonomy over their own lifestyle and life, and they just push these, you know, this is what you must have in order to be happy or fulfilled or, you know, be decent and the good person, you know. It's just fucking ridiculous.
No, I fucking love all that. I completely agree with everything you've said, and I reckon that will be a good ending point for this episode. We've talked, oh my gosh, this has been quite the corridor, and I would be really keen to hear people's thoughts on on this episode, but like, tēnā koutou everyone for listening. Thank you so much for your support. If you would like to support the show for free, please subscribe, follow us on Instagram. If you want to financially support the show, check out the link in our show notes to our Buy Us a Coffee. Thank you so much for listening. We would really love to hear your thoughts and feedback. Feel free to leave us a comment. It's also another free way to support the show. But aroha nui to all of you. Burn the patriarchy, and may we see the rise of a matriarchy within our lifetime.
Fuck yeah.